Good evening and welcome to the Weekly News Digest. I'm Diana Idris, bringing you the key moments that defined this week. Our team of dedicated journalists at Otyrar.kz has been working tirelessly to keep you informed. Here's a look at the top stories shaping the past 7 days. Kazakhstan reports record electricity inputs amid price surge and grid strain. Kazakhstan's central bank raises inflation forecasts as economic pressures mount. Kazakhstan's foreign trade slows as export growth stalls and domestic production rises. Shymkent in the red, aging water and sewage systems raise concerns. Spring draft begins. Shymkent sends new recruits to border service. Doctors warn tuberculosis still a threat despite fewer cases in Shymkent. Dental clinics sue Kazakhstan's health insurance fund over anesthesia. Dispute golden contracts and silent oversight. FC Ordabasy faces budget scandal. Shymkent celebrates Nauryz with joy and unity. Kazakhstan has just recorded the largest electricity import in its history. According to the Bureau of National Statistics, in January alone, the country reportedly imported around 22 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity. That's 65 times more than in the same period last year. But experts say something doesn't add up. Oljas Baydildinov, a well-known energy analyst, believes this figure is likely a mistake. He points out that Kazakhstan's total annual electricity consumption is about 115 to 120 billion kilowatt-hours. Importing 22 billion in just 1 month would mean nearly 2 months' worth of power was brought in all at once. He asked, did all power plants shut down in January? Kigok, the national grid operator, also denies the report. They state the actual electricity consumption in January was only 11.5 billion kilowatt-hours, half of the reported import figure. Despite the confusion, energy imports are happening, especially during winter months when demand spikes. The main supplier is Russia, and prices are set on the market. Experts say Kazakhstan currently pays around 35 to 37 tenge per kilowatt-hour. According to tariff expert Ashat Jabsarbay, electricity prices in Kazakhstan are expected to rise by up to 23.5% this year. In about 2 years, prices could match those in Russia. Meanwhile, the country's electrical grid is showing its age. About 72% of the infrastructure is worn out. The government is now working on national projects aimed at upgrading the grid and attracting investments. Kazakhstan's National Bank has raised its inflation forecast for this year. Analysts now expect inflation to hit between 10 and 12%, higher than earlier predictions. The central bank says this revision is due to rising external pressures, increasing fuel prices, and growing utility tariffs. Officials warn of several key risks: stronger domestic demand, accelerating inflation in Russia, and unstable inflation expectations. There's also uncertainties around fuel price hikes, fiscal policy changes, and the delayed effects of regulated price increases and VAT growth. Despite these concerns, the bank expects inflation to slow next year to between 9 and 11%. And by the end of 2027, it may fall to as low as 5.5%. Financial expert Rasul Rismambetov says this year's inflation will likely absorb most of the impact from the VAT increase. He notes that while this is a direct effect, there are also indirect inflationary consequences that are harder to predict. Experts also point out that economic behavior plays a big role. Unlike fixed formulas, inflation depends on how market players respond. That unpredictability adds to the pressure. Sergei Domnin, head of Kursiv Research, says inflation at 10 to 12% signals a move from slow to more active price growth. And in such a volatile environment, it's hard to plan long-term investments. He warns that inflation could swing wildly from 5% like in 2019 to over 20% as soon as 2022. For now, the message from experts is clear. Economic uncertainty remains high, and rising prices continue to challenge Kazakhstan's financial stability. Kazakhstan's foreign trade growth has slowed significantly. In 2024, total trade volume reached $141 billion, up just 1.3% from the previous year, compared to a 3% increase in 2023. Exports total $81.6 billion, while import reached $59.8 billion. Despite the slowdown, the country maintains a positive trade balance. Key trade partners remain China, Russia, the European Union, Turkey, and neighboring Central Asian countries. Trade with China and Russia stayed at the same level, while exports to Europe showed modest growth. Kazakhstan mainly exports oil, metals, and agricultural products like wheat. Analysts say oil output in 2024 fell slightly short of forecasts, and metal exports face challenges due to weakened demand from China. Imports mainly consist of machinery, equipment, and vehicles. However, the country has seen a decrease in import value. Experts attribute this to rising local production, which is replacing some foreign goods on the domestic market. Government programs are now focused on boosting investment and supporting import substitution, which could further reshape the country's trade landscape in the years ahead. Shymkent is now in the spotlight, and not for the best reasons. The city has landed in both the yellow and red zones due to its aging water and sewage infrastructure. Let's break it down. According to city officials, Shymkent has made major progress in expanding access to clean drinking water. Out of 81 residential districts, 80 are now fully connected to the central water supply systems. That means almost 27,000 more residents gained access to drinking water just last year. The city's overall water supply coverage has now reached 99.5%. But behind these numbers is a deeper problem. More than half of the city's water pipes are worn out. Officials say 56.5% of the drinking water pipelines are outdated and in need of replacement. The level of wear places Shymkent in the yellow zone. The sewage system is in a worse condition. A staggering 73.5% of the sewer pipelines are classified as worn out. That moves the city into the red zone, signaling a high level of infrastructure risk. Deputy Akim Sarsen Kuranbek addressed the issue in a public statement. He emphasized that despite improvements in access, the condition of the infrastructure is a growing concern. He also noted that one remaining district home to more than 23,000 people is still under construction and not yet connected to the water network. City officials have expressed frustration with the local water company. They claim the company's repair work is moving too slowly. Even worse, they suspect the company may be overstating its maintenance efforts in official reports. The city's goal is to bring the wear level of both systems down to under 50%. Until that happens, Shymkent will remain in the danger zone. Officials warn that without urgent upgrades, the risk to public health and safety will only grow. The spring military draft is now underway in Shymkent. Over 150 young men are set to begin service, with many assigned to Kazakhstan's border guard under the National Security Committee. According to Deputy Head of the Defense Affairs Department, Azimukhan Shantayev, the draft process follows a strict plan. Recruits undergo medical checks, physiological testing, and are assigned to military units based on their health and readiness. There's more support for draftees this year. Those who serve can receive benefits, including educational grants for both civilian and military universities. The deferral process is now fully digital. Students no longer need to gather paperwork. Their status is verified automatically through government databases. Even those studying abroad can confirm enrollment via the e-gov portal. Shantayev reminds all eligible men that military service is a legal obligation. Missing a draft summons without a valid excuse leads to fines. Refusing medical examination also brings penalties, and avoiding service altogether could mean criminal charges with possible fines, community service, or even jail time. The draft runs through June 30th. Summonses are delivered by mail at work or via SMS through the 1414 system. Deferrals of exemptions can be processed online or through local government offices. We'll keep following the campaign as it progresses. Health officials in Shymkent are reminding the public that tuberculosis remains a real danger even as infection numbers fall. In the first 2 months of 2025, 51 TB cases were registered, including 40 cases of pulmonary tuberculosis. That's a 35% drop in total cases and a 44% drop lung infections compared to last year. Still, the disease hasn't disappeared. 1 person has died from TB this year. In 2024, 4 people lost their lives to the illness. Doctors are especially concerned about working-age adults. 54% of those infected are between 18 and 44 years old. And while there was one new case among children under 14, the number of cases among teenagers has gone down. Officials stress the importance of early diagnosis. Left untreated, a single TB patient can infect 10 to 15 people in a year. Doctors say tuberculosis is curable and it's not passed down genetically. They recommend regular checkups and urge everyone to get a chest X-ray once a year. If you haven't been invited by your clinic, they say go on your own. It could save lives. Early action is key to stopping the spread. A growing legal battle is unfolding between dental clinics and Kazakhstan's social health insurance fund. The dispute centers around anesthesia used during dental procedures for children, pregnant women, and other vulnerable group services that are supposed to be covered by the state. Previously, dental clinics received separate compensation for anesthesia, but now the fund claims that anesthesia is part of the overall treatment cost and is demanding that clinics return payments made over the past 2 years. This change has sparked outrage among dental professionals. They argue that anesthesia is a separate medical service, not just a drug. Clinics say that can't deny pain relief during procedures, especially for children, and are now forced to ask parents to pay out of pocket or choose private care. The conflict began after the country's Supreme Audit Chamber found signs of double billing in dental services across Kazakhstan, totaling about 2 billion tenge. The fund insists that anesthesia costs were already included in previous payments. Legal experts say many clinics are now suing the fund. They argue that government regulations clearly list 3 types of anesthesia as separate viable services, detailed overlooked in recent interpretations. Court hearings have begun and the outcome could reshape how dental care is funded and delivered in Kazakhstan. A scandal is shaking Shymkent's top football club, Ordabasy. Following revelations of excessive spending and questionable management practices between 2019 and 2024, the club received over 21 billion tenge from the city budget. An additional 17 million tenge came from non-budgetary sources. Investigators report that nearly 12 billion tenge of this funding was spent solely on salaries for players and staff. A key point of controversy involves the contract of team captain Ashat Tagbergen. Despite no longer playing, he continues to receive 20 million tenge per month. His contract, like many others, is registered with UFAA and legally binding for 2 years. Officials say terminating such deals early could lead to major financial penalties. The club's recent leadership is under scrutiny. Former President Baurzhan Abdubayitov is accused of approving salaries, bonuses and contract amendments without proper oversight from the board of directors. He was dismissed in May 2024, but city's officials say the consequences of his actions continue to affect the club's budget and operations. City Akim Gabit Sazdakbekov has described the situation as a swamp, a system burdened by inflated payments and long-term obligations. Attempts to restructure contracts or cut costs are limited by the binding nature of existing agreements. Public concern is growing over how public funds have been used. With certain players earning more than 20 million tenge per month and limited performance results on the field, calls for financial transparency are intensifying. The incident highlights broader issues around sports funding, accountability and management culture in publicly supported clubs. An official investigation is underway and authorities promise to review all contracts and decisions made in recent years. Further developments are expected in the coming weeks. In Shymkent, the city is celebrating Nauryz, the ancient holiday of spring joy and renewal. Thousands of residents gathered at Astana Square to join the festivities. Traditional yurts were set up across the square, offering visitors a glimpse into Kazakh heritage. Guests enjoy national food, crafts, and cultural displays. One of the key moments was the ceremony, a ritual symbolizing a child's first steps into life. City officials, cultural leaders, and healthcare workers all took part in the celebration. Special yurts were set up by the health department, reflecting unity across different sectors of the community. The program included concerts with local and national performers. Music, dance, and theatrical performances filled the day, continuing into the evening with shows from international artists as well. This year's celebration also featured an environmental initiative, and a line of young trees were planted in honor of the Day of Korusu, symbolizing new beginnings and connections. As always, Nauryz in Shymkent is more than a holiday. It's a symbol of peace, cultural pride, and the spirit of togetherness, and that unites people across generations. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.